Okay, I'd like to call a meeting to order, the Charter Review Commission meeting of August 28th. Roll call.
Ballmer.
Here.
Craig.
Here.
Deeth.
Here.
Denning.
Here.
DeRue.
Here.
Hayek.
Here.
Kuchera.
Here.
Maliabo.
Here.
Patel.
Here.
Item number 2 on the agenda is to adopt the draft minutes as presented or amended. Anybody have anything they'd like to add?
One small note, my name is misspelled. It's okay, just forgot the C.
Duly noted. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as
moved.
amended? Moved by Patel,
I'll second.
second by Kuchera, Bijou. Tie. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 3 is motion to accept correspondence. We had several pieces of correspondence from Mr. Bywater and Mr. Brandt. Is there a motion?
Move to accept correspondence.
Moved by Craig, seconded by
Second.
Drew. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 4, staff response to commission questions previously posed. Mr. City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you may recall that at our last meeting, there were a couple of topics that you wanted me to research further and circle back to you, and I did so, and put that down in my August 23rd memo, but I'd be happy to kind of talk through that briefly. So the first question was, or assignment I should say, was research whether recall elections are permissible in Iowa. As I mentioned, the state of Iowa, although there are 39 states that have specific and explicit provisions allowing for the recall of local officials, Iowa is not one of them. Iowa does not address it either way, so let me be clear. They don't say thou shalt not have recall elections. They just don't speak to it at all. And of course, there you kind of fall back on home rule, which at least leads me to a preliminary decision that it is probably legal to do so. I had a call into the Secretary of State's website after I made contact with someone in the campaign finance board. I haven't heard back from that person, and if you folks opted to pursue something like this, I would probably dig a little deeper, to be frank. But I wanted to kind of gauge your interest in that first.
I'm the one who asked the question, and as long as there's a way to remove a city council person after due process into the entire, I'm satisfied, so.
Okay, there is, yeah.
So is there interest in pursuing this? I guess that's the question. Is there interest in us pursuing it? I don't think that we should at this point necessarily.
Okay.
No, my experience with watching recall elections in Wisconsin is it tended not to be over malfeasance or non-attendance or issues like that. It tended to be over positions on controversial issues. And, you know, the vote that they took, well, the public has a chance to vote when they have a chance to vote. So,
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Obviously, I have strongly mixed feelings about recall elections. There were times when I don't think any Iowa City Council member would have finished their term.
No names, no names.
No names. Nothing personal.
Present company accepted, right?
Hey, Eric, you mentioned home rule. I think it would benefit all of us to understand what that term means.
Oh, sure. So Iowa has home rule, which basically did away with what's referred to as the Dillon Rule, which was named after Iowa Supreme Court Justice Dillon. And his holding decades and decades ago was that municipalities had no power that was not proactively given to them by the state. So if the state didn't say you could do it, you couldn't do it. Home rule reversed that, and it was part of a national trend to move away from that way of doing things and empowering municipalities to do things that they saw fit to do at a local level. And so we have home rule, and so instead, unless the state either expressly preempts us, that is, the state says municipalities may not or shall not, or impliedly preempts through either field preemption, which means that they have so regulated a particular area of concern that it is just implied that there's no room left for municipalities to do any further regulation, or in conflict preemption, that is, you can't reconcile the state rules on a given matter and the municipality rules on a given matter, and so there's implied preemption and municipalities can't do anything more. So home rule basically means that unless the state said we can't, we can.
Okay, that's very good, thank you.
Sure. Would you like me to move on to the second point?
Certainly.
All right, so the second assignment was you'd asked me to look to see whether city employees already had protection against citizen petition or initiative petitions seeking their removal from employment, or whether such protections would be better enshrined in the charter to lend better clarity. As was raised in discussion at our last meeting, there is one area already, 7.01B1A in particular, and G to a lesser extent, that offers some protection for city employees. A talks about, among the list of things that are not proper subjects for initiative petitions, is any measure of an executive or administrative nature. Well, hiring and firing is an executive and administrative matter, with the possible exception of the city manager, the city attorney, and the city clerk, who are appointed by the city council, which needs to be done via a resolution in a legislative way. As I mentioned in the memo, there are some other protections that city employees already enjoy through either their collective bargaining agreement or through civil service protections, but it's most likely that the folks who would, the folks who would most likely be the target of such a petition do not enjoy those. They are not covered by collective bargaining. They are not covered by civil service. But they still would have a property interest in their job, and so are entitled to due process. And it's hard to imagine how you would have due process if, you had a citizen petition that said, we shall remove the chief of police or the city attorney or whatever it is. Then, what process would remain, I guess, would be the question. All that said, would some additional clarity be helpful? Sure, maybe. And so I did propose some language adding on to the end of A so that the sentence reads, any measure of an executive or administrative nature, comma, including but not limited to personnel decisions. And the reason I said personnel decisions instead of hiring and firing or something like that is because one could imagine someone being clever and saying, well, we'll just reassign the city attorney to pour concrete. Apologies that I misspelled pour.
Isn't that other duty
That's how
assigned?
bad a concrete pourer is.
I would do it poorly, for certain. But anyway, you can imagine how someone would try to be cute and get around a hiring and firing decision by just reassigning someone they didn't like to a job that they didn't like. So that's why I said, personnel decisions, period. So that's something for you to consider.
Okay, we'll tentatively agree to that. When
I would like to say this was very good.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
Very good.
yeah, yeah,
okay.
Thanks, Eric.
Sure.
yes, thank you.
Before we go to Article 8, I think we should consider the suggestions from Jareen that she had sent us, that the city attorney called to my attention. So if we could look at those. There's 7 of them. Everybody had a chance to look at those?
I like them.
Yeah.
With one exception, and it's grammatical.
Okay.
I think these are real eagle-eyed edits, so I appreciate that from you. I think the fewer than, or less than or fewer than is a grammatical rule, I think.
It's fewer than if it's units that can be counted,
Right.
like gallons of milk, fewer, but if it's just milk and uncountable, then it's less milk.
Except that in sort of scientific things, if you're talking about a range, you always say greater than and less than. So So then you could have something that is.
Countable.
Countable, but is appropriately greater than or less than. And the 2 times that we used fewer, then that was appropriate because you weren't talking about a range. So,
Okay, well, yeah, so a range really isn't countable, a number is. So I would only raise that grammatical issue. I get the point, so we
Right.
should do whatever's grammatically correct.
right. Well, so.
And you may be right.
A range could be, 1 to 10, greater than 1 and less than 10. And that's so, and those are numbers, but they define a range. So, but that's just how we scientists write it. No, maybe we're wrong, but no, I mean, I don't have any strong feelings about any of this, but that's just kind of whatever.
Are you comfortable with that?
With which, sorry? I had also identified
Are you more or
fewer
less
for the
comfortable?
exact same reasons that Commissioner DeRue specified. That is, you can count days, and so I had fewer. That was one of the couple comments I had about these suggestions. But, I mean, I get what you're saying, and, you know, it's up to you folks.
I think people will interpret it appropriately either way. People
Yes.
Understand what it is.
Did you have concerns about any of these others?
Well, I had one clarification, and well, maybe it's just one clarification and one quibble with number 3, but maybe we should come to some consensus about this issue, which addresses both suggestion number 5 and suggestion number 7 before we move on to those others.
Okay.
Sorry? Yes.
So what's your,
I'm sorry. I guess we should, there's been a suggestion that we change it to less. There's been some reply that I think fewer is appropriate. Previously, we changed it to fewer, but of course, we can change it back and forth 10 times before, you know, it goes to council. That's entirely up to you folks. My question is, what's the consensus of the commission? Would they prefer to use the word less or fewer in those 2 places that Commissioner Denning identified?
what's the pleasure of the commission?
Well, since it's not a scientific paper, and I appreciate what you said about, because yes, fewer than less than, I think we should use what is grammatically in the English language correct, which would be fewer, correct?
That's what you had proposed originally.
Yes.
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 So I would agree with that.
Okay, so fewer. The clarification I had was in suggestion number 4. It made reference to page 5, section 2.03, but I couldn't find the language suggested in 2.03. I wonder if you meant 2.04.
Ooh, that could be.
That was the one that
Yeah.
tripped me up too.
That was
I think
where-
that is what she meant.
Yeah, yeah.
If so, then I'm 100% in agreement with the suggestion made. The only other one I had was suggestion number 3. The comment says, because it's not referring to a specific council, maybe a lowercase c council is appropriate, but I took it to mean that this really was the council
Referring
that
to
we
the
were talking
council.
about. And so
Okay.
I would suggest we leave an uppercase C
Okay.
council there. But again, that's a
that
decision
okay?
entirely up to the commission.
It's me.
Bless you.
Thank you. Problem with that.
2.03.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry, did we get a consensus on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Leave-
I
leave
agree,
it
it's the
upper-
council.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, those are all the suggestions I had.
Great.
Otherwise, I thought everything was right on point and great
Okay,
editing.
thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Without taking an opinion on the substantive issue at the bottom, that's
Yeah.
really.
Right, and
Up to you.
that's one we should talk about also. My personal opinion is I would like to leave it as is because they have the opportunity to have more forums. So I don't personally would not like to have to mandate. I think one is adequate, and they have the option to do more.
Right. But we all know that if doing something extra is some kind of burden, right? I mean, it requires time and energy and resources. So you want to balance out you don't want an undue burden placed on the, on the review board or anybody else. At the same time, and this is perhaps totally personal, I don't think, because they're not going to often, maybe they are. Do they have lots of police review board meetings every year?
Just regular meetings?
Yeah.
They have them monthly.
Oh, public forums, I'm
Oh,
sorry. Oh, yeah.
They have at least one. There's been a few times where they've had two. They're not well-attended.
Right,
I'd
right.
say the ones that I've gone to have been probably 10 or less.
Right. Well, and so that's a sort of a separate question, is how aware is the public of these forums going on? And I don't know, I just thought 2 would not be an unreasonable additional burden, but would at least guarantee that at least twice, even if it's poorly attended, that at least twice the people would have a chance to have a say. That's all I was thinking.
Is there opportunity for public input at their meetings?
Their public
Yes.
meetings? Okay.
So any member of the public could,
Could come to any
Any
monthly
meeting and
meeting.
speak up.
Yes.
Okay.
What's the feeling of the rest of the commission? Would you like to keep it at 1 or make it 2?
Do they have the option of doing more public
Yes,
forums?
They
have that
do.
option.
In case, because if something happens and the public becomes very interested in having express opinions about what's going on, as long as they are willing to, when the public,
Right.
because I think 1 would be enough, as long as they make sure that when public interest becomes high,
Well, in the way it's written, it says at least
At
1.
least two.
Right,
Yes.
right.
So there's no limit.
We can talk about that if you want. Yeah.
Kelly, do you know why a lot of people don't attend it?
I do not know why. We even tried cookies once. Didn't work.
Well, and that's good to know. I mean, just in the practical sense.
So what's your
sounds like
pleasure?
1 is good.
One is good.
As long as they have the opportunity to
Right,
have
right,
additional,
right.
which I think is built into that, and
Yeah.
I think you have a review board that is very attuned to that, so.
I think they'd be a body that'd be receptive to public opinion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay?
all right, thank you. Okay. Item 5, review of city charter, Article 8. That is one we have not had an opportunity to.
Forgot my notes.
Is that one where the changes, the addition of at the earliest, or that we made to 7 about holding it at the first?
Legally permissible
or
election
legally?
date. Yeah,
Would
because
that fit in here
Yeah.
anywhere?
That was my major question about all of this, is it's, several times it's referred to as submitting something to the voters at a special election. But I thought we talked last time, and the state has limited our options for special elections.
Yeah, you're correct about that, and as a result, yes, we should probably lend some clarity to this section. I don't know if I would mirror the language exactly, but maybe we would, but to make it clear that it would be at the next legally permissible date, we would probably want to figure out how much time we would really need between the filing of the petition and the decision of council, much like that's laid out in the earlier, boy, was it Article 7? I'm trying to remember. to make sure that, you wouldn't obviously have a petition on Tuesday and expect an election on Wednesday, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, it seems to me you'd kind of want to treat it like the initiative referendum process.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would think so. We can certainly draft some language if that's the consensus of the
Let's
commission.
consider
Yes.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it'd be best to have the things parallel each other.
Okay, we'll do that.
Okay. Anything else under Article 8?
Are the references to article in this document uppercase or lowercase? I just noticed there's a reference to
Article 5.
Article 5 at the beginning
Oh,
of
right.
8.02, so I don't know if that should be capitalized.
Probably.
I would think we'd want to use an uppercase there. I'm not sure that the commission has addressed that previously. If so, I don't
I
recall.
think you've
but
made that up.
It seems appropriate to me.
Yeah, I think it already, you did, I think.
Okay. Uppercase.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if there's a reference to this article, I don't know if I would
Yeah, that's lower.
uppercase that or capitalize that, but if it's to a specific article, I probably would
Are
capitalize it.
sections different? In the paragraph above, we have like section 362.4.
Yeah, we were just talking about that over here. Actually,
I
it's
would
just
just
a
open
little
up a
bit
can of
weird.
worms, sorry.
I'll look to Commissioner Hayek on this one, too. Normally, when we cite in legal briefs to Iowa Code, we say Iowa Code chapter, those would all be capitalized, or Iowa Code section, and then the section would not be capitalized, for reasons I've never really understood. But that's how it's
with
typically
ya.
cited.
I think we should go by
Yeah.
what everyone else.
Okay, so we'll leave a
The
lowercase,
conventional way
Yeah.
of,
we'll leave a lowercase s for section, and uppercase A for article, and we'll try to make that change throughout.
Question about election dates here. So I'm looking at council must submit amending ordinance to voters at a special city election. So would that prohibit putting a charter amendment on the November odd year ballot? Because we'd be prohibited from putting anything on a general election ballot under current law. And that would leave the September and March special election dates.
In even years, you're talking about?
In both even and
Oh,
odd
in-
years,
yeah.
we'd have the opportunity for a March special election or a September special election. And then
So, I'm sorry, are you looking
looking at 801B,
B?
council must submit the amending ordinance to the voters at a special city election.
Yeah.
And the same thing happens in C,
Yeah,
a special city election.
right, yeah, so
Right.
that would.
Well, so my question to you is, obviously, any special city election would need to be legally permissible, but would you like me to mirror the language from the earlier section about citizen initiatives to say the first available or first legally permissible special election date, or first, I can't remember exactly the language I used. First
Yeah, I
legally
like
permissible
that
date.
if everybody else likes
But to follow
that.
up on
Yeah.
one of your questions is, why can't it be at the general election if the timing is right?
State law prohibits it right now. The only issues that can go on state
They cut
ballot.
down on when you can have special elections,
Yeah,
but they
bond
make you have
issues-
special elections.
Yeah, bond issues can go on general election ballots. We actually have some of our smaller school districts doing that this year. But other city or county questions can't go on a general election ballot. Now, that could change. I'd welcome that change, get something on the ballot in the election that has the most voters. But I am not a member of the state legislature, so.
Yeah, and so the term legally permissible would then cover that.
That would then cover if state law would change, it would allow cities to put charter amendments or initiatives on a general election ballot, then we could do that. Or if they offered additional election dates.
Okay.
Oh, I don't sense that changing.
And conceptually, I like the idea of as much consistency
Yeah.
as possible, both for the council if it's thinking about doing something, and for a group trying to put an initiative or referendum in front of the public. And it would allow all of those stakeholders to have a better sense of when it might actually be voted on. And so they would
Yeah.
time the beginning of their efforts,
Right.
with sort of
Yeah.
better knowledge of the
Then
calendar.
back up from there.
Yeah. So maybe you could play around with
Yeah.
801?
Sure.
I like the idea of what you're saying too, Matt, with, making sure it's similar to like 7.05B, 1 and 2. That's where we changed that language, so it will be similar in
Yes.
language. Just to draw the attention to where we're exactly talking about.
Okay?
Thanks.
That's a good idea.
Okay, let's go to item 6, continue the general overview of the city charter. I think this might be a good time then to talk about, Matt, your memo to us vis-à-vis the charter and what we're doing. I think might be a good opportunity to weigh in there and talk about the process as far as our goals and our charge necessarily, because I think we're charged with reviewing the charter presently and to look at how we may improve it, but we're not going to a full-scale change necessarily of changing the charter per se. It's a review, and this is the 5th time that we've had a citizens committee review it, and I think what you have said there makes eminent sense, that we are trying to make sure that we're all up to date, that we are currently, with our current situation, and even though we have a pretty good charter that's worked well for 50 years. It just always needs some updating, but if everybody's in agreement that
No.
What's that?
No. I definitely want to look at the district, how the district council members are elected, because I do see there being a problem with that, because people, it really leaves out districts, areas for citizens' involvement. So that is, I see the problem with that election, and I strongly think we should look at it. And the fact that there has been the discussion about this, and saying because the city council members haven't brought that up does not mean that that they don't think it is a problem. It just means that they're stacking back and not providing us with more information. So I definitely want to look at that, and the election of a mayor by this whole city is something else I think we should take a look at, because that is another thing that has the community has presented also. So we definitely, I don't think we should just definitely take has happened in the past, because one of the things, it is the lack of representative from all communities, and there has been several people who have seen this as an issue, and I'm one of them, that there should be elections by districts, because it never made sense to me that the districts weren't electing their members.
I should have meant to say we were going to talk about those two issues.
Okay, I just wanted to.
I'm just saying that the general proposition of the charter
Yes, I agree
is
that the rest.
sound, but I think those are two areas that we certainly will be talking about.
Okay, I just wanted to.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I
I just
understand.
misunderstood what you were saying.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
so-
I think that was part of it, just stepping back. You know, the council hasn't changed it in the past, it hasn't changed in 50 years, and our charge is, yes, to make improvements, but I would argue those improvements can include substantive changes, not
Yes.
just, you know, sort of the other important improvements. So the same thing, we are going to discuss it, but I just didn't think that, I just didn't think that, you know, that sort of premise that it's not in our charge to, yeah, we can discuss it, but it's also in our charge to decide whether we actually make those changes, not, you know, so.
And I don't think we're talking about huge changes. I threw a huge change idea out on the table early on of having a much larger body with much smaller districts. That landed with a thud. I dusted off my bruises and went home. So we're talking about still, we seem to be in broad agreement. 7 is about the right size. A little maybe discussion of maybe changing the mix of district versus at-large seats, change in whether the districts versus the entire city are voting at large seats. The more substantive change that seems to be on the table is direct election of the mayor. But we're still working within the same basic framework of what the council has been shaped like in the charter era.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say thank you to Commissioner Hayek for this. I read it and I think I'm agreeing with all of you guys, but let's just not forget that we still need the public input and hear from them, because they're the one that we need to figure out if we're going to change or not. And I agree that it's not a big change, but also I agree with you that we need to look at the districts. I think I'm a little bit also confused with the District A, B, C, and how the election is. So, but this was very well written. Thank you. And I read the charter as well so many times. I did so many research. I'm trying to find fault because I thought that's what we're supposed to do, but it's very well written. So.
I will say every Charter Review Commission has considered those two issues. It's not that they haven't, and so that's been considered each time and not, just thrown under the table. They've had some very thorough discussion, as we will have, but I think it's something that, we take very seriously, and I'm certainly going to be listening to all sides. I've been hearing from people also. I've been trying to engage people because I feel that there's a lot of people that don't know what's going on, and we're kind of flying under the radar, so to speak. So. Anything else?
I'm a great statistics person, so I loved your going out there and finding all those things.
Well, I was waiting.
Librarian me just leaps up and goes, oh,
I need to
good.
update some of those statistics. I think I would have made them originally.
I have always wondered, I've wondered before, there was a time when we had more Asian percentage, was the highest percentage of non-white in Iowa City, and we haven't ever had an Asian person on the council in my time in Iowa City.
Well, it's pretty amazing to start thinking about the various segments of the community and asking, are they down here? Are they participating? And I mean, the things I looked at, and that was not an exhaustive list, tell me that there are plenty of groups that are underrepresented down here. And I don't know that there's an easy answer to that. I think there are much more broader, more complex reasons why people don't engage down at City Hall. Ranging from the mundane, too busy,
Yeah.
too many work obligations,
Think about it, yeah.
kids' activities, et cetera, to more complex reasons. So it's a problem. I was pleased to see that we vote in greater percentages, at least we did
Yes.
last year, than
our neighbors?
than our larger neighbors. The smaller towns have high rates, but that's kind of
It's
an apples to
easy.
order. Yeah,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
so that was good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised.
And one group that, maybe because I'm a little more sensitive to it, I'm a renter. And I think that is one group that is definitely underrepresented. I don't know, is there anyone else who rents, or? You do, all right.
Oh, we currently have a renter on council.
Yeah, Andrew
For
Dunn.
what it's worth.
Yeah, but.
Andrew
it's-
Dunn is a renter.
Yeah, but he.
First one in quite a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's
right.
maybe
Yeah,
Karen.
that's right.
Yeah, that's what I mean, it hasn't been, especially.
Fair point, yeah.
As many renters as there are, because renters have less social capital, because I don't know my neighbors since I've been renting as when I owned a home. And so that makes it harder to engage and be.
And so, sort of the goal of an authentic district system is that different parts of the city are different and may have, some parts of the city may have majority renters, other parts of the city not.
Yeah.
And so if you elect everybody at large, then you're reducing the chance of those groups being able to elect a representative for that district that better represents that district. So,
Yes.
that's kind of the goal of it.
I was also just looking at the data. Thank you again, Commissioner Hayek. As a person of color, I'm, encouraged to try to figure out why, we have a lower percentage, and we're all leaders here, and I think any of you can look at this and figure out what's the problem and how can we get this numbers up. It bothers me a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful for this, and I hope the city council also can look at this and see how things work and why it didn't work, and see how we can do with election for more people to actually vote.
I think we have a terrible lack of media coverage compared to when I was on 50 years ago. And that's a disservice to this community, because that's why people are not engaging. I'm convinced of that. They don't know what's going on. We used to have, and I don't want to play the old hat here, but when I first got on the council, we had a reporter at every formal and informal meeting reporting in the newspaper what we were doing, and that kept the public's interest. Obviously, we didn't have social media back then, but it did the job, because people could engage with we council members.
Yeah, the same thing at the county as
At the
well, 30 years
county,
ago.
Same
Yeah.
way, John, absolutely. And we're being, it's a terrible disservice to this community, because I really don't know what goes on at the county unless I come down and see you.
Yeah.
But it's really unfortunate, and that's why you're not getting the participation, I'm convinced, of a number of people from many segments of the community. And I don't know what the answer is. Like Matt said, I wish I could wave a magic wand and it's like the districts anymore. We can't get enough candidates to run.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting district representatives with no challenges, and that's not healthy either.
Right.
So I wish I had an answer to that, but
We live in an era of civic disengagement, and this has been going on for many decades.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
The downfall of local news
Yep.
Yes.
is a major.
I believe that. I really do.
It it's so ironic because the ability to track what's going on locally is so much better than it was 20 years ago. But 20 years ago, there was a reporter at every city council meeting, and it was in the paper the next day.
Right.
And many, many people had papers, or were able to pick one up and read it, and so,
Kelly, you know why we don't have reporters?
I mean, we do have reporters that come to the council meetings.
They're not active.
Well,
It's hard to say.
yeah, I mean, the Press Citizen typically has someone there, not always, but typically, and they usually have the article come out 2 days later. Of course,
Yeah.
to be fair, oftentimes, we have council meetings that run till 10 PM sometimes, so hard to get that out the next morning. The DI sometimes sends folks. We have not seen any over the summer for obvious reasons, but they're usually a little quicker in getting the coverage the next day. And we sometimes have someone from the Gazette, including sometimes they utilize DI reporters to do their reporting for the Gazette, but they're a little less regular, I would say.
And unfortunately, when the press comes, is to cover a controversial
Yeah,
item.
not the boring stuff.
Because
You're absolutely right.
I asked
Jennifer.
my daughter, how did the first Central Committee meeting go? And she was like, didn't you see the press coverage? And so there were two TV.
Because something
yeah,
controversial.
That also tends to be when controversial things come up.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Because that is even more niche.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of a vicious circle. You don't have a lot of press coverage. People stop reading the local papers because they're looking for something, and which then takes resources away from the local papers, which then, causes them to.
Yeah, the entire economy of journalism is collapsing, speaking
Yeah.
as a former journalist.
Yeah.
Well,
I think the
you're
Press
right.
Citizen's readership is well under 10,000. I think that's
Probably, I
right.
think it's more under 5,000. They won an award in an under 5,000 category last year.
Wow.
It's like being a welterweight, you go down to your, that's too bad. Yeah.
It's too bad.
Well, anyway,
Yes.
okay.
Social media. That's where
Yeah,
it's
social,
at.
that's,
what
and
it's gone to now.
I'm not a social media fan either, but I'm
where a lot of the
I'm a
young-
dinosaur. see.
A lot of the young people are using that, and then the media they do
Jump for
see
those
on there
media.
is.
Okay, item 8, tentative meeting schedule.
number 7.
Oh, the community input forms, I'm sorry.
Oh, yep.
We need to get some clarification on that, I think, because my understanding was the September 10th was to be the public input meeting at the library, correct?
That was what I had.
Yes, but that was one of the questions I had. Were you going to have a regular meeting prior?
Well, it depends on if we think we need one.
I don't think we need one.
I would assume we were waiting for the public forums at this point.
Yeah.
And so and Molly, your suggestion about an hour was good because there's a presidential debate that night, so we need to.
Is there a
get
start
that.
time on the presidential debate?
I think it's 8 o'clock, isn't it?
Eastern or,
9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central.
It's CNN, so they'd be in the Eastern.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be
No, it's not CNN. CNN was the last debate.
ABC.
CBS, one of those.
That's why I thought if we started at 6:30 and be done at 7:30,
If it starts at 8.
I think it'll start, I think
I'm
it's.
gonna look it up. We got
Oh,
this
you
nice
got it?
little,
Got it.
kind of thing here that I can look
Can't
at.
help
Social
the
media.
vice. Give you access to the world's knowledge.
This agenda that
The
you
University Heights
drafted
special
here,
election, too.
under number 3,
I had a voter today.
it says the
Really?
community comment period will last no more than 15 minutes? No
Yeah,
less
that
than
was
That was a
15?
copy and paste.
Did you mean no less than 15 minutes?
Well,
Where's that?
it's
Because
all
you-
going to be community comment,
Yes.
potentially, so.
Okay.
So I was like, Yeah, that was the one that confused me too.
3 minutes.
I was like,
This could probably be edited down to just do individuals will be provided 3 minutes to speak. Chair reserves the right to reduce the 3-minute period
Right.
yeah.
and leave the first sentence. So just get rid of really the underlined.
Right.
Reuters has confirmed the presidential debate begins at 8 PM Central.
Perfect.
Okay. So
9
that's-
PM Eastern.
That should allow us enough time. If we have people there that for an hour, that'll be,
Yeah, and we remember, we didn't say an end time, we just said
Right.
we will be there for an hour.
Right.
If it ends earlier,
So-
then we're done.
okay.
Yeah.
actually, since it's public input and most people don't use the time anyway, I think 5 minutes. Most people don't even talk for 3 minutes, so if somebody has strong feelings.
Well, right, it's up to the chair, but oftentimes what the mayor does at city council meetings, for example, is normally 3 minutes, but if he sees a packed room, he'll
Yes.
say, how many of you would like to comment? And if 40 people raise their hand, then he's like, well, okay, now it's 1 minute or 2 minutes,
Yes.
or whatever the case may be. So, the chair could do something similar, but if you said 5 minutes, then you're guaranteeing, short of a lot of people being there,
Yeah,
a longer comment. So,
People can say a lot in 3 minutes.
yeah.
true.
And sometimes
I think we'll,
they just repeat themselves in 5 minutes.
sure.
Yeah, okay. So we
I
can
mean, what
keep
we
it
do
at
at
3.
planning and zoning is they get 3 minutes, and if everyone speaks and there's still plenty of time, then if they want to add some additional, then they can speak for an additional 2 minutes if they want to.
Okay.
I mean, it's a little complicated, but
Sure.
it works for planning and zoning. And
That sounds like a good way to go.
once in a while, someone does. And
But we also have another public meeting.
28th.
so
Yep,
if-
the 28th.
20th, so if people
Right,
want,
we'll have 2 of them, which I think will give people an opportunity in this. The 28th is the non-football weekend, so maybe we'll
Then-
just, they'll come out in hordes
Just
that
as a
day.
heads up on the 28th, which might be good. It's farmer's market too, so
Okay.
Oh, good.
might draw people in.
Yeah.
Excellent.
There we go.
And also the African festival, so
Oh, wow.
more people coming as well.
In the afternoon, right?
Good.
Lots of people in town.
it'll be the highlight of your Saturday.
Then do we need to meet on the 26th?
That was just my
I
question.
mean,
Well, I don't know that we necessarily do need to.
Yeah, especially since they're so close.
And my guess is that we have those 2 community inputs, and then in October, we start to discuss and hopefully come up with some recommendations that we can
Yeah.
prepare to send to the council. That we can have a robust discussion about certainly those issues that
Yes.
we just talked about, so.
So, we're not meeting on the 26th?
No, I don't think so. Is that all right with everybody?
Yes. I was gonna
It's not that we're
Thursday, the
shortchanging, I don't think.
26th.
No, we'll just have the 2 community input meetings,
In September.
10th and the
Oh, I see, yeah.
28th.
I'll try to arrange my schedule on the 10th.
And
So we wouldn't meet
I
on the
think this
26th.
looks good, except I think we should have both dates on there.
Yes.
Both
Oh, yeah,
forums.
yeah. So people know I don't.
I know it's going to be a
busy.
squeeze to get it on there, but I think,
Is it? Oh, it's not the same time.
Not
I
the same
think-
time or the same location.
Right. So it takes a little more space, but I think that's right, because, you struggle to get people to see it. So anybody who sees
Sees
it,
it,
it
have
would be
both.
nice that they saw both.
Is
You're
that,
like,
is that doable,
and then we need
Kelly?
to,
I will
like,
figure something out.
and then we need to get it out there. 'cause
Yeah.
September 10th is not far
Right,
away.
Right, yeah. What type of setup do you all want?
I thought we talked about like this. kind
Well,
of setup.
yeah, what, are you talking about here or at the library? Maybe.
Both.
Well, I think like
Okay.
this is what we do.
I think,
Maybe it would be good if you and I went over to the library and scouted it out, kind of lay it out.
I mean, we have all 3, A, B, and C, so it's a
Lots of
large
space.
room.
Yeah,
And really, it's however you want it. I can get chairs and tables are just chairs, or?
Well,
We won't be engaging, right? We're
no.
Just listening.
No, we're
So we
listening.
don't need microphones.
Right.
Right.
I mean, we'll need some sort of mic, because I'm going to, you know, I'll introduce, you know, and start the meeting, and then are we going to have, should I introduce all the members of the commission? What's your pleasure on that? I can
I
do
think
that.
if we have our signs there.
I'm happy to do it.
I mean, we'll definitely, if you want, like tables at the front where you're all sitting.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
then just like a podium mic, something
Sure.
similar to that, where
Okay.
folks can come.
All right.
Public library already has.
Yeah,
for that
there's a
meeting.
mic
They
in
do
that
have a mic.
podium.
Yeah.
They also have,
Problem is you can't move the podium.
no,
Yeah, it's mobile mics too.
they do have
Yeah.
wireless.
And then just a similar, do you want to be up here for the one
I
in
think so,
here?
to give people space down here.
Well, I guess it's a matter of, do we have this room up
Oh,
there?
yeah.
We do? Okay. The other question I have, as it relates to interacting with the public, if they have questions, I guess that's my question. If they have a question about process, it would be nice to be able to answer that. You know, if they ask us, okay, what's your procedure? How are you going? And if we could just address it and say, this is how we will be handling it.
Yeah, I think that's fine, particularly if you're talking about a procedural question as opposed to one of substance.
Right.
Then you can talk about procedural stuff all day long, and that's fine. And I think it'd be appropriate to have the chair, kind of one person,
Yeah,
Right.
I think so, too.
answering a question like that.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
think when you do the introductions, if you gave a little bit about the process, that we're sort of, you know,
We're here to listen.
we've done
Right.
a lot of work, we still have
Yes.
work to do, and we're here to get your
Yes.
input. And after these sessions, we will this, and here's when we expect to hand it off to the council.
That's a good point. As I'd planned on doing that, and indicate that we've had, this is what, our 9th meeting, and so, you know, we've had, you know, we've been doing our due diligence here, and so hopefully that they realize we have been working, so. But yeah, that's a good point, Susan. I had planned to mention that.
Because that might answer questions ahead of time.
Yeah.
After September, do we have public comment here too on our meetings? We still have public comment?
Yeah,
So
at
we
our
can
meetings.
Also invite them to come back in October. and
Certainly. Yeah, certainly.
So I know this might be something to ask, but can we get like some kind of signage for people when they come in, that the QR code is there for them to download if they don't want the digital? Or are we going to have, do we have a handout, or what are we going to do so that they can, if they want to say, hey, can you look at this part of the charter, it would be easy for them or us to get to that, or what were you planning to do?
Well, I can have handouts there, some. I can also have, this QR code goes to the web page.
Okay.
That way, there's more information about the board, the working draft is on there, but
Yeah.
I can also have a separate QR code for the working draft for the forums. That way, if that's all they want, they can pull it up quick.
Yeah. Well, we'll be happy to have a whole bunch of people here that we run out of handouts and then, they need that.
Run out of time.
Oh, I just want to make sure that there's accessibility to the document if they don't have it in their hand or,
Here is easy, I can always run to the office and make more.
yeah.
Library. I can probably get them at the library, too.
There's probably a photocopier there.
Yeah, I would bet so.
Question, would we have maybe someone or just for people to sign up, maybe or not? Or maybe to track
Like a
down how
sign-in
many?
sheet?
Yeah, how many
Nice.
people come, so at least we have people that showed up. Is that okay?
Typically, we keep track of those who actually speak.
Okay.
And I can certainly do that, and we'll do that for the minutes.
And we could just have like a total
Keep track of
number.
numbers, yeah.
The Corville Library has a tick thing.
So are we meeting either September 10th or 26th?
No.
Or no? Okay. All right. right? That sounds
Not for
good.
the regular meeting on the 10th.
Right, the regular
of
meeting,
course.
right, right. We're just going to do the
We are
special
having our
forum.
public input,
Okay, that sounds good.
okay?
Do we need to discuss dates for October then? Because we're not going to have,
Good idea.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. What does everybody's calendar look like?
Oh, God, I didn't even want to think about my October calendar. Let me get it in
You're going to
front
have
of
a
me.
busy October, Mr. Deeth.
It's already feels like October.
You may get some
24th.
excused
It was
absences.
the 2nd.
well, I
Hoping
know
to
that we
avoid
had
that.
originally talked about the second Tuesday and the fourth Thursday, and that was working for the meeting area here. I don't know, so that would be the 8th of October, and that would be the 24th of October for the dates. I don't know if those dates still work for people, but that would be, I think, the days that Kelly had said this room was available as well, before we started moving things around.
I think it's easier if we keep things consistent.
I can make sure I make the 8th, and I can make an effort to make the 24th.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Okay.
won't be, our late nights of early voting are the following week, so.
Okay, well, we'll have those as our,
Yeah, I already have them on my calendar. it looks
Me
like.
there we
too.
go.
Yeah.
There's a league program at the library on the 24th that I had on my calendar. I don't know, what do you think HHH means? HHH, League, at ICVL.
It's a program about something, but I must have been interested in.
It'll bother me all night now.
HHH.
And then when we get into November, we'll have to just discuss that, because that will fall on Thanksgiving for one of those
Right, right.
Thursdays, so that's
Yeah,
not
I
going to be a
think
day.
Yeah, that would not,
we
Probably not.
hopefully will be
I was
wrapping
going to
up.
say,
Yeah.
it seems like we might be done that first meeting in November.
Yep.
That's the hope for, that we'll have something ready that we can send to the
That would be
council.
November 12th, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should be somewhat recovered by then.
Election's what, the 5th?
Election's
Yeah.
5th.
It's going to shiver up my spine.
Yours
You gave me a shiver up
I
mine.
know.
So
It was
everybody
a
has,
collective one on behalf of everyone.
so for the dates, Kelly then has October 8th, and everybody has October 24th.
Right.
And then we'll tentatively plan November 12th to hopefully wrap up to have something to send to the council for review.
I will be unavailable November 12th.
12th,
I have
okay.
a work trip to DC.
Hopefully, we can get
Yeah,
things.
hopefully the
There's a lot
24th.
of, hopefully we'll be able to come to consensus then, and then
When are we presenting to the city council? Is that November 12th? you said?
November 12th would be probably would hopefully be our last, maybe it was more of a wrap-up meeting. That depends on how we do in October. Let's hope
Yeah.
let's hope we can,
And then you think, I mean, I don't know what the past procedure has been, but when the council gets it, are they going to want to have us at a meeting in case they have questions for us?
that's a good question. I don't know 10 years ago, what they did. I think they forwarded it to the council at that time, and, but I don't think there weren't many substantive changes, I don't think, either. There were some, but
I think I recall the chair, I think it was maybe in the consent or something like that, and the chair just showed up and basically said, here you go.
yeah,
Thank you for the privilege of serving, blah, blah, blah.
that would make
And, you know,
sense.
here
I
to
think.
answer any questions, but
Right.
I think it was sort of a formalistic
Right.
handoff
Right.
by the chairperson.
So if there is items that, I mean, we have till April, obviously, so if there is items that they need to discuss, then we need to think about how we want to engage with the council to help work through items.
Right, and I think the council will be focused at the first of the year on their budget, I'm sure. And so I'm trying to think about that process too, and so we can get this to them so they have a chance to digest it. And then if they really want something changed, then they can come back and we can look at it then, so. But I know the first of the year, the budget starts to take precedence, so. But you're right, we have till April, but hopefully we're efficient.
Yes.
Okay, item number 9, community comment. Anybody who wishes to address the, hi there.
Hi, Mr. Bummer, you're not a dinosaur. I want you to know that.
Oh, thank you.
I have a lot of respect for you, make everybody calm here. I know Susan and I know Matt, Deb Schlegel.
Why?
Last week I was invited by my neighbor to come to this meeting, or last time, and I said, I can't come unless I know what I'm talking about. So I did a crash course and I started digging. And I took inventory of where I've lived in my long life. And we're talking Sacramento, California, where Arnold Schwarzenegger became governor. I think of Jesse Ventura becoming governor of Minnesota. And therein lies my thinking. First of all, I do not think you are a group of parochial, narrow-minded individuals. I have a lot of respect for you. You have experience in government and city offices, and for that, I am grateful. You are chosen, I just wrote this down, by respected individuals that have served in some capacity by your council. I studied the charter. It's not long, but I will tell you, it is a gift compared to some of the cities I've lived in. Eric, you and I hail from a very different county, Washington County, and I lived there for a while. And our mayor just resigned due to some contentious litigation. What the charter is, as I've said, is quite a gift. And I refer to Matt, the $100 donation cap, I think, is extremely fair. An experienced council who chooses on a mayor shows respect for that individual. All these members are elected by the city. Councilor Dunn's proposal, I have read over and over and over, and it is quite confusing and convoluted, and frankly, I just am having a hard time understanding it. I am a layman. I thank you for your time, and I hope that you will consider keeping the mayor elected by the council, because I've seen other cities where mayors are bought and paid for, as Mr. Hayek represented, and then inevitably they have to grease that person's hand. I hate to use that term, but that's the reality of the situation. So I think this is a very, very, very fair system that I haven't been exposed to. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Anybody else wishes to address the commission? Seeing none.
I think that's, yeah.
Item number 10, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Bijou, second.
Second.
Second by Hayek. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.